Hello and welcome to the Matt Stewart Sports High School Football Podcast. Coming up in this week's episode, we're going to visit with Lowndes head coach Adam Carter. His Vikings off to a 6-0 start, coming off a big region win over Colquitt County on Friday night. And all eyes pointing towards that potential region championship showdown against Valdosta on Halloween night. Going to be talking about that with him and a whole lot more with Adam Carter coming up in just a few minutes. Also going to hit the biggest winners of the week, our players of the week, a ton of recruiting news to get this week. Things have opened up again here as we're heading into the month of October, and we'll also preview the biggest games to watch this Friday night. Speaking of which, this Friday night, the GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia. Number 2, Buford at resurgent number 9, Collins Hill. The Eagles have rebounded from a tough start, playing great football. And believe it or not, this will be the first time I've ever called a game at Faring Field, so I'm excited about that. Of course, called a ton of Eagles games over the years, and we've done games at Faring Field before, but I've never actually called a game in the stadium there before. And so looking forward to that this Friday night. So all that's coming up here on the High School Football Podcast. We're going to start with some huge news coming out of Lee County this past weekend. Dean Fabrizio placed on a leave of absence by the school. And here's the statement he posted on the football program's X platform, quote, due to mistakes that have been made on my behalf, as well as some personal issues that I need to attend to, I've been placed on a leave of absence as head football coach from Lee County High School for the immediate future. In my 17 years as head coach at Lee County High School, we've always tried to hold the members of the football program to the highest standard. I hold myself to the same standard, but unfortunately, I have failed to do that in this regard. I will be taking this time to address this and seek help. I poured my heart and soul into our football program over the last 17 years. I apologize to our school and our school system. I apologize to the parents, the community, alumni, supporters, and most of all, the members of this program. We have a very capable assistant coaching staff who will be in charge of the team in my absence. So the long and short of it, it was later reported after this came out that he had been arrested for DUI late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. So this leave of absence is tied to that. He's had an outstanding run there with the Trojans, 150 wins since he got there about a decade ago. And, of course, they won 2 state championships in 2017 and 18. And they were just coming off a loss to Thomas County Central on Friday night, which, of course, had nothing to do with any of this. But big news down there, bad news down there. But hopefully Coach Fabrizio can bounce back from this and get that taken care of and get back in charge of the Lee County football program. So big news this weekend, just a kind of a stunner to hit you as it came across when we started hearing about this on Sunday. So let's take a look at our players of the week. And we'll start at quarterback with Stephen Cannon of Benedictine. He was 15 of 26 passing for 267 yards and a touchdown, 57 yards rushing in the Cadets' 30-27 win at Ware County. Cannon is a 3-star senior quarterback committed to Texas Tech, and this Benedictine team is on the comeback trail after a rough start, losing a couple of games early in the season to 6A opponents. Benedictine is for real. They're a contender for the state championship there in 4A. My running back of the week goes to Deuce Lawrence of Thomas County Central, 24 carries for 210 yards, 1 touchdown, plus 3 receptions for 54 yards, 1 touchdown in the Yellow Jackets' 35-21 win over Lee County. Finished with 346 all-purpose yards. Deuce is a 3-star running back who is committed to Wake Forest, and he's really good. Wide receiver of the week, that goes to Prince Gene of Valdosta. 4 catches for 124 yards receiving in the Wildcats' 63-19 win at Camden County. Had 188 all-purpose yards in that win. Prince is a 3-star wide receiver committed to Kentucky. My offensive line of the week, that goes to Langston Hughes in our GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia game. Left tackle Kelsey Adams, who's rated as high as the number 5 offensive tackle in the country in 2027, and more big news on him when we talk about recruiting and get you up to date on some of the big commitments over the weekend. Left guard Denon Welch, center Jermaine Harris, right guard Savion Frazier, who's just a freshman who picked up an offer from Kentucky this past week. They're comparing him to Donnie Glover, who of course, is a freshman offensive lineman starting for the Georgia Bulldogs. And right tackle Xavion Baker as well. Panthers rolled up 338 yards rushing, 506 total yards in their 33-0 victory over Noonan on GPB. Defensive lineman of the week goes to Prince Che of Thomas County Central, 6'3", 275 sophomore defensive tackle, had 8 total tackles, 4 TFL, quarterback sack in the Yellow Jackets win over Lee County. Prince already has 15-plus offers. He's just a 10th grader. Linebacker of the week goes to Javaris Keir of Valdosta, 6', 185 senior, had 11 total tackles, 5 TFL, 2 quarterback sacks in that Wildcats win at Camden County. DB of the week, Israel Harrison of Lowndes, 5'10", 165 junior, had 13 total tackles, 4 TFL in the Vikings' 31-14 win over Colquitt County. My place kicker of the week goes to Jake Davis of Central Carrollton, nailed a 47-yarder, a game winner with just 11 seconds left in the Lions' 24-21 win over Jonesboro. And my kick returner of the week is Jarvis Matherin of Hebron Christian. We've talked about Jarvis a lot here on the podcast. 2 kick return touchdowns in the Lions' 55-10 win over previously unbeaten East Jackson. Mathurin also had a receiving touchdown for 3 total scores in that game. Of course, he's committed to Georgia Southern, and when we named our GPB Sports all-classification preseason team, he was the kick returner on that team. He's a fabulous, explosive player. But the overall player of the week, number 1 performance of the week, that goes to West Lawrence running back Ty Cummings, who rushed for a state single-game record, 615 yards on just 19 carries in the Raiders' 70-55 win over Baldwin. Cummings scored 8 touchdowns on runs of 59, 91, 75, 53, 59, 59, 86, 78. You might want to play those in the Powerball, and I don't even know how to do that. But he had 3 59-yard touchdown runs alone in that game, and then 5 others on top of that. Cummings was named to my preseason 3A All-State team back in August and is committed to Georgia Southern. So congratulations to him. What a performance. 615 total yards rushing in one single game. That's more than a lot of kids get in an entire season. All right, let's take a look at the biggest winners of the week, and we'll do that by classification this week. We'll start in 1A D2, and we're going to go with ECI's 34-6 win over number 4 Metter. ECI rushed for 377 yards in that win, with Tyler Foreman leading the way with 172 and a couple of touchdowns. In 1A D1, number 5 Northeast Macon shut out number 9 Dublin 20-0. Raiders defense really playing some ball right now, posted their 4th straight shutout, and freshman quarterback Jordan Wiggins, 19 of 26 passing for 267 yards and 3 touchdowns. So this Northeast Macon Raiders team, of course, got to the state finals last year. Maybe they're tracking in that direction again this year, even with all the losses that they had due to graduation. In 2A, biggest win goes to Hart County over private second-ranked Prince Avenue, 31-28, just an absolute stunner, as the Bulldogs were 1-4 on the season when they knocked off the Wolverines. Big game from the Bulldogs quarterback, Kurt Curry, who was 10 of 12 passing for 191 yards and a couple of touchdowns, and also rushed for 110 yards. In 3A, another stunner, North Clayton edged number 3 Stevenson, 43-41. How about huge win for our man, Coach Cap Burnett, who played for the Georgia Bulldogs, and he's back at his alma mater coaching his team, and finally got a breakthrough win in what looks like is a breakthrough season for Coach Burnett's Eagles. They're now 5-1. They haven't won more than 5 games in a season since 2010, back when Rodney Hackney was their head coach, and they went 9-2. So congratulations to Cap Burnett and North Clayton. In 4A, number 7 Benedictine, 30-27 winners at number 4 Ware County. And like I said a few moments ago, cadets are proving what we knew all along. They are state championship contenders despite those 2 early losses to Colquitt County and Buford. Benedictine is now 3-2. So they are really playing good football right now. Would not be surprised to see them certainly in the Final Four, if not in the state championship game. In 5A, number 1 Thomas County Central beats number 6 Lee County 35-21. That was payback for the Yellow Jackets. The Trojans are the only team to beat Thomas County Central in the regular season since Coach Justin Rogers took over in 2022. Jalen Johnson was 11 of 20 passing for 169, 3 touchdowns, including a 36-yarder to Donnell Jester to pretty much seal the victory. And my number 1 victory comes in 6A, and that's number 8 Lowndes, a 31-14 victory over number 9 Colquitt County, and maybe a turning point in that series. Packers had dominated the series really since the days of Rush Probst. Had won 9 of the previous 12 meetings. Quarterback Jace Johnson, though, and running back Mason Woods had big games, and the defense as a whole did very well too. So much more on that coming up in just a moment. Time now to bring in Lowndes head coach Adam Carter. And Adam, thanks a lot for being with us, and congratulations on your huge 31-14 victory over Colquitt County.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having us on. Big win for our kids and community and everybody.
Yeah, I thought it was the biggest win in the state this past week, and you guys had not had a lot of success against the Packers in the last decade, long before you were there. Plus, the last time they played at your place, they won by 3 touchdowns. So how big was this win for your program to clear that Packers hurdle this year?
We've talked about it. You kind of go into every region game that way. It's like it's a must win every Friday in Region One, and you try not to put much emphasis on it for the kids, other than the fact of it's the next opponent. For me and my staff and community, they're probably a little more stressed. Again, you try to just make sure our kids are as focused as doing what they need to do more so than who we're playing, but it was a big deal. Everybody knew it was a big deal. We thought we had let one slip away from us at their place last year. Um, got beat on a field goal as the clock expired, and ended up costing us the region championship. And so, there was a focus. I think the kids were focused on, on making sure that we gave ourselves the best shot. But yeah, the Moultrie is really good. Coach Calhoun does a great job, and that staff does a great job. Those kids are well prepared, and they're really good ball players. And so to be able to come out on top, was a big deal for us.
We talked to him just a couple of weeks ago here on the podcast after they beat Lee County. So, as you mentioned, it's huge. You're 1-0 in the region, and unbelievable. This is your last home game coming up this Friday night against Tift County. You'll play 3 in a row on the road to close out the regular season at Camden County, Richmond Hill, and then, of course, Valdosta. And all signs are pointing to a possible epic showdown with your crosstown rival Wildcats a month from now, maybe with the region championship on the line. In light of that, this victory over the Packers, was it almost a must-win for you guys, given the schedule that you got in front of you?
I think so. And I mean, I think, I'm not trying to deflect by any means, but literally in our region, they all are. I think you got playoff teams from top to bottom in our region this year. And I think anybody can win the region. And so to be able to go 1-0 is a big deal to get a good start. Obviously you mentioned that we're going on the road. Not everybody in the state can say their road games are 3 hours to Camden and almost 4 hours to Richmond Hill.
Right.
And so those are challenges in itself. And so, you set goals for your team. You set goals that kind of lead to that region championship goal. And one of ours was to start 1-0 in the region, and one of ours is to win all of our home games. So we have a chance to secure that goal this week against Tifton at home. To get us a little bit of a better shot at making it. But Matt, last year at this time, we were headed into the last week of the season, right? And I'll just kind of give you an idea what Region One's about. And
Yeah.
everybody had a chance to make it going into the last 2 weeks. And Richmond
Uh,
Hill last year was sitting there having a chance to win a region championship with 2 weeks to go and didn't get in. And so it is just every game is just so important. And it's sometimes you tell your kid. I told him this morning. I was like, listen, Friday night was awesome. I hope you enjoyed it. On Saturday, I hope you enjoyed everybody telling you everything good you did on Sunday, but it's over. You've got to get back ready, and we got to go focus now on Tifton. And they're going to come in with a good football team, and they continue to get harder somehow. And then you finish with Valdosta, and that's a long ways away, but it's always circled on the calendar around these parts. Everybody knows when that game is. I got a new coach in town from Metro Atlanta, and he said he had his lounge stuff on this weekend, getting gas, and somebody across the parking lot said, "October 30th coming, coach." And that's just how it is down here.
Yep.
And so
Yeah. Absolutely.
it's fun though, man. You come down here to Region One as a coach for this. You want to put yourself in these positions to have to get your kids and your staff and everybody ready every week. It's the best of the best.
There's no doubt, Lowndes and Valdosta not looking ahead, but that's the Iron Bowl on steroids right there. So there's no there's no doubt about it, because at least in the Alabama Auburn game, you got a whole state separating the teams. Here, it's just you're cross town from each other. So it's just huge. You're trying to win your first region title since 2021. The program is. It'll just be the third in 14 years. But there is no, and you kind of alluded to it already. Winning the region title is big in every region, but it's no bigger than what you have there in Region 1. And the downside if you don't, because if you win Region 1, you possibly have the chance to have 4 consecutive, home games in the playoffs. That means your opponent has to drive at least 4 hours to get to you. Probably going to have to overnight stay. Means they're going to have a truncated week of practice because they're going to have to leave on Thursday. So that's the big payoff. But if you don't win the region, then the exact opposite is true for your program if you're coming out of there as the 2, 3, or 4 seed. So, I mean, Region 1 is just a beast, as you've already pointed out. But the payoff or the downside is huge when it comes to the playoffs.
Absolutely, and again, everybody knows that the bracket came out this summer, and you go ahead and circled it, right? You want to get that home field, and you want that every year, but especially this year. I think it's important, to be able to get somebody to have to come to our place in the playoffs is something I'll take every Friday night, and so it's a big deal. We'll keep working at it, man. We'll try to focus on Tipton right now and just see how the Cars play. I think it's one of those things where you try to live by what you taught, and you don't look ahead. There is no look ahead. I think that down here, and it kind of humbles you, being in this region, honestly, where, you could get away with it sometimes. At a couple of my former spots of figuring out who was down the line. You ain't doing that here now. And so, you got to get yourself ready and the kids ready. And it's week to week, man. And but it's there, you know what I mean? That having home field advantage and people come to the Palace, um, Metro Atlanta needs to experience that. So we need to win the region, get some
Yeah,
people down here.
absolutely. So, in light of everything we said, would you be in favor of a power rating system to seed the teams in the 6A playoffs?
You know, I talked to my AD about this a lot and try to see what it looks like. We're about to go into the new cycle of scheduling, and with the power ranking in mind, you've got to look at some things, right? And so the winning records of the people that you play as opponents comes into play, and all that stuff that I've never had to deal with before, right? And so we had the conversation. I think that last year, we get 5 teams in if it's power ranking.
Richmond Hill
Um,
would have gotten in, you're right.
that's right, and there's a chance that we don't go to Buford in round 2 last year if it's a power ranking, and so I do think there's I look back, 2018 at Creekview, we went 12-1. Y'all had a couple of our games, but we were sitting there at number
We
2 in the
did.
state for the last 5 or 6 weeks. We end up having to go to Lee County in the quarterfinals, so you had a 1-2 matchup in the 3rd round, and so I do think there's some positives, I do, and so I think it's a lot to work through and to work out. It'll present its own set of challenges and how that thing shakes out. But I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I think you won't be opposed to it till it comes back to bite you somehow. Like you're supposed to be
That's
a 2
exactly right.
seed and have a home field, for first round, and next thing you know, you're on the road and you'll be upset about it. But um, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that. I think it's got some positives.
Yeah, what I would propose is all region champions get seeded 1 through 8, all second place region teams get seeded 9 through 16, and then 17 through 32 get seeded on top of that. But they all get seeded that way, you you maintain the structure of the benefit of winning your region or being the runner up in your region. So you're going to get those home games like you do currently in the playoffs, but you're still seeding within that. So
Right.
that's what I would try to do. But anyway, no one's asking me. This
Me
is
either. Me
year
either.
3 for you at Lowndes. After having great success, of course, at Grayson, and you mentioned Creekview too. Of course, you won the 2000 state championship with the Rams. You're 6-0 for the first time in your first 3 years, 4-6 year one, finished 10-2 last year. Do you feel like you got the program where you expected to be at this place that you call the best job in Georgia?
I still think we're working on stuff. We really do. I mean, you got a when I came in, this senior class ended up being small. They were the ones that kind of were in limbo a little bit and end up some kids not making it with us. And so, even right now, I think I got 38 seniors, but when we did our stuff the other day, only like 12 are actually playing on varsity snaps. And so we're playing some sophomores and juniors in important roles. And hopefully and as the years go, that we're able to be a little more senior heavy. I think that's important. Last year we were senior heavy, but um, it's still a work in progress, man. We're trying to work every day like that. I don't. I've never gotten that taste of 4-6 out of my mouth, and so
Yeah,
it
I'm
doesn't
sure.
matter what that record is right now. I still go back to feel like we're one loss away from it falling apart, and that's the way I work every day. And so I do think we're in a better spot. I think we got good numbers. Um, we've got 180, I think, 9 through 12. We're in a good spot, as far as the community support. I think people are showing up. This year, our attendance has been really good. And I think that there was just some doubt, right? And so when you go 5-5 and then you follow that with a 4-6, there's a lot of doubt. And Lowndes folks and Lowndes faithful had not experienced that in a while. And so they were, everybody's just trying to figure out which direction it was going to go. And so, you follow up with a 10-2 and it gets everybody spurting a little bit. And then you right now you're sitting at 6-0 and folks are at least opening their eyes and saying, hey, they got a chance. And so we're there. I mean, we're in a good spot where we are playing a bunch of young kids and underclassmen. I think we've got 3 or 4 offensive starters are seniors. And then I think we got 5 or 6 on defense. So, we're getting where we need to be. We got some young talent that hopefully we can build around. Obviously, we got a quarterback that still got the rest of this year and next year, Jace Johnson. So there's some pieces in play, man. We're just trying to go to work every day.
Well, you brought stability to the program when you were hired. They'd gone through a flurry of head coaches after Coach Randy McPherson retired, and he's became the AD. But you went through a flurry of head coaches there, and then you also brought in your weight room mentality, which is also a foundation and staple piece of any program you've ever coached. So, from what you've seen when you took over January 2023, maybe you had that first team meeting, to now here as we go into October 2025. What do you feel as far as physically the development of your players?
Yeah, when I first got here, that was probably the biggest shock. When I left Grayson, we had tested, had 70 plus kids at Power Clean 225, and I showed up here, and you show up to South Georgia, and you're expecting just strong dudes, that just go in and get after it and all that. And I'll be honest with you, I think we had 22. And so then I was like, okay, we got to play catch up, right? And that first year, that's all we did, man. We played catch up, and we were winning 6 of those losses. How about this? 6 of those losses in year one, we were winning in the fourth quarter. We were beating East Coweta, we're beating Valdosta, beating Camden, and beating Colquitt going into the fourth quarter. We just couldn't finish, right? We couldn't hold up physically. Last year, that senior group went in and they busted their tails. And they found a way to physically get us to a position to where we felt like we could go line up on Friday night. We've continued to push the gas now. Like that's just something I believe in. We're not going to back off of that. I mean, we were in there squatting this morning. We're not going to back off of that. And I think it's a mentality. What we had some things happen early in the season with Jace. He got a little banged up and we had a plan, and that plan involved being able to line up foot to foot and run the football. And you can't do those things unless the kids and the coaches physically believe you can do that. And I felt like they handled that well. They did that, and again, the weight room is something that I take pride in. I know my staff that I bring that is here with me that they take pride in, and and our kids have grown to understand how we do things. And when you talk about stability, I think that's the difference. I never talk about anything being right or wrong, right? Everybody's got their own way to do things. It's just a consistency of doing it over and over and over and what those expectations are. And when you had those couple of changes, like I'm offensive line guys, I'd use them example. They had 6 coaches in 3 years, and that's not an easy
Wow.
task, and so that's ability. And my staff's been here. They're here, a great group of dudes. They're those kids know they love on them, and they're gonna coach them hard. And again, that stability and consistency over the course of a year. Like you don't just lift weights in the summer. You don't just lift weights in the spring. It is a year-long program. And so now to have 2.5 full years in it, we're finally getting somewhere. We're little now. We are little, but we're physically, we're able to at least hold up.
You can meet the challenge, and you're not running out of gas in the fourth quarter now, so
That's
that's
right.
great. But as we pointed out, you develop your guys. By and large, you don't have a lot of big time college prospects. You do have, as you mentioned, Jace Johnson, 4-star, who's rated as high as the number 3 quarterback in 2027. Your win against Colquitt was your closest game of the season by and large. You haven't had to have big statistical games from him, and as you pointed out, he was banged up earlier, and you decided early on that look, we're going to try to run the football, take some pressure off him a little bit, not expose him to the physicality of the game if we don't have to. So what have you seen from Jace here? And as you pointed out, he's still got a season and a half plus to go in his high school football career.
Huge talent, huge upside. He's fairly new to the position. When I first met Jace, he told me he was a nickel, and I was like, "Man, I got me a 6'3" DB, right? I was ready to rock. And he was, he's just a long athlete, trying to figure out his body. And then, Dad reminded me, Coach, Jace can throw, and I said, "All right, let's see." And then, the story goes from there. But tremendous talent. I think one of the things he does so well that nobody gives him really enough credit for is his ability to run. Jason's an athlete now, and he's 215 pounds of it. And when he gets going downhill, he's a load. And that's part of his game where he can go extend the play. We get some quarterback runs where we get an extra hat. Um, my philosophy's always been, um, I want to throw the ball when I want to throw the football, not because I have to. And our offensive guys have done a great job of putting plans together, and we do it different ways, man. If you go look at our stats, I mean, like there was a game early in the season we had 8 kids run the football, and so it's just every year's different. We want to put him in good spots. We feel like we got some really good receivers. I think he was 14 to 21 this past week, and just takes what he gives us. And then he had a big shot. I posted a video out of him and Bubba Brown's reception on Friday night, and he's going to make those big plays for us. He can make every throw. And we got some kids on the perimeter that could go make some plays for him. So we'll have to rely on him as the season goes on. When you start to get in deep into the region, and Colquitt was really good at it too. Now they're big up front, they're physical up front, and the run game is not always easy down here. So our ability to throw the football will pay huge dividends as we continue to go.
In your running game, your top offensive weapon, statistically at least, has been Mason Woods. And I had to go back and look it up because I didn't remember Mason. And it's because on my depth chart, when I called your Buford game last November, he was listed as a backup wide receiver. But he was 18 for 121, a couple of touchdowns against Colquitt, which is pretty much what he's been doing every week of the season. He's averaging about 120 a game. Tell us about him.
He's a great human. He has served his time. He's lifted. He's grinded it out. He's been a JV guy. He's been the backup. He watched Road Dogg and Marvis last year. He's been just chomping at the bit to have his opportunity. I think he'd had some big runs early on. He wasn't able to finish them as touchdowns, so nobody really thought much about it. He was averaging 100 something yards a game, but he only had like 2 or 3 touchdowns. In the last couple of weeks, that's changed. And the big run he had Friday night was, the big one. I hope that puts him over the top. He's one of the strongest kids we got. Pound for pound, he works his freaking tail off. He's small in stature. He's not going to be that 200-pound back, but he's strong. And so, great young man. He emphasized what, Lowndes football is supposed to be about. You come in, you work your tail off, you love Lowndes. When your shot happens, you take advantage of your shot. And so hopefully people start to open their eyes and see what he can do.
Defensively, linebacker Garrick Harris, not even on my depth chart last year, and safety Anthony Martin listed as a backup. Top two producers so far on that side of the ball for you this year.
All right, let me tell you about that. So Garrick Harris is actually our starting defensive end at 205 pounds. And
Oh,
Anthony
okay.
Martin, there you go.
He's linebacker
Anthony
size playing DM. Yeah.
Well, our goal was to leave him at linebacker, and because he's a good
Mhm.
athlete, he's hit almost 20 miles an hour running, and so we're like, all right, let him run around linebacker, and we weren't able to do it. And Anthony Martin had played a little bit as a sophomore, played a little bit as a junior. He's kind of like my coach on the field. That I've always had one guy in the secondary that I felt like could take care of the room, right? And that's Anthony Martin. So, we graduated 10 of 11 starters last year on defense. And so just about everybody but Malik Reddick that you had on that Buford depth chart running out there for the first snap, they're gone. And that's been the biggest deal defensively is finding out who those faces were going to be. And we moved people around. We had two, what I call ponies, our safeties that are now playing linebacker for us. They're 150 pounds soaking wet, and they are running around and trying to hit anything in sight. And so we're trying to do some stuff, and we're limited. You know what I mean? We just don't have those big, long, physical up front kids. You know what I mean? So we're having to do it a different way. But the kids are playing so hard on defense right now, man. It's fun to watch them.
Just looking at the overall picture, everybody's kind of pointed at Grayson. They've been at the top of the rankings all year. Buford right behind them. Carrollton, of course, even losing that great quarterback Juju Lewis, they're right back there. They're 6-0. But can this Lowndes Vikings team sneak in there and win the state championship for the first time since 2007?
I think we just gotta stay consistent with what we're doing and keep the kids, in line, confident, but just again understanding what our goals are leading up to that. We got a long way to go. Again, you guys see what we look like on paper compared to all those teams you just said, and we don't add up, and that's fine. We're not going to add up to that ever, probably. And we've got a couple of. I mean, we're happy when our kids have today pop some NAIA offers out of Warner, out of Florida, not all the P5s that we play against, when we
Right.
start getting in deep in the playoffs. But, again, Lowndes is going to win doing things in Lowndes way, right? We've got to be physical. We've got to love Lowndes. We've got to love the people around us. We got to do stuff for others, play for others more so than just all those accolades and those kind of things. And, if we can keep that mindset, man, again, these kids are fun. They really are. Again, we don't look like much. We're probably underdogs on paper every Friday night. I feel like, but they go out there, they play the game the way it's supposed to be played, and they're having fun with it. So we're gonna keep grinding it out, Matt. See what happens.
I believe in you. Of course, I've known you since your year there at Creekview when we first got to know you. And then, of course, following that to Grayson and now at Lowndes. So big believer in what you do and the program and your program building and how you do it. So congratulations on the 6-0 start so far. And look forward to catching up with you later down the road.
Yes, sir, man. Thanks again for having us on. Anytime we can talk about these kids, I appreciate it. So go Vikings.
Always great to visit with Lowndes head coach Adam Carter. Look forward to catching up with them later on GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia. What a season he's putting together down there, but a long way to go, like he pointed out. All right, let's continue on here with the Matt Stewart Sports High School Football Podcast and check out the recruiting news. And we got a ton of it, so let's get to it. Langston Hughes, 4-star Kelsey Adams committed to Georgia over 26 other offers. Adams is rated as high as the number 5 offensive tackle in 2027, and we just saw him this past Friday night on GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia. He's big, 6'6", 300 pounds. Just another in a long line of bookend tackles that have come through that Langston Hughes program. They're kind of like tackle university. Donnie Glover and Bo Hewley, who's playing at the University of Georgia. Doris Dice, who's now playing at Florida. So they just kind of roll them out down there. All right, Carrollton 4-star Dorian Barney, the big flip of the week. big flip of the weekend, that is. It happened Sunday as he decided to change his mind. He had been committed to Michigan. Now he's committed to Ole Miss. Barney is rated as high as the number 15 cornerback in 2026. He was originally committed to Alabama as a junior. We've seen him many times on GPP Sports Football Fridays in Georgia. Thomas County Central four-star Jabari Watkins committed to Nebraska over 9 other offers. He's rated as high as the number 29 wide receiver in 2027. IMG Academy 3-star wide receiver Christian Ward committed to Colorado over 32 other offers in the middle of last week. You might remember Ward started his career at Carrollton and then transferred to Walton, and now he's playing at IMG for his senior season. Westover 3-star Kyson Mallard committed to Georgia over 14 other offers, including Florida. Mallard is rated as high as the number 15 interior offensive lineman in 2026. Westlake 6'2", 175 junior cornerback Brandon Allen commits to Mississippi State over 14 other offers. Fellowship Christian senior athlete Jonathan Granby committed to Georgia Southern Thursday over 10 other offers, including Georgia Tech. Granby plays quarterback for the Paladins, highly skilled ball player, as is this next one. Athens Academy 5'9", 150 junior athlete Keon Standifer committed to Georgia Tech over 2 other offers. I saw Standifer way back when he was in 7th or 8th grade, and I was calling the Georgia Elite Classic up in Rome, and he was playing in that all-star game. They have a bunch of all-star games, and he was playing in the 7th or 8th grade. I can't remember, but you knew then that he was going to be a fabulous ball player, and he is, and he's now committed to Georgia Tech. So congratulations to him. And Stevenson, 6'4", 235 senior edge Troy Stiggers is going to announce his decision on Wednesday this week. He visited Old Dominion this past weekend and Miami of Ohio and Georgia State earlier in September. He's having a big senior season for the Jaguars, averaging 7 tackles a game with 13 TFL and 5.5 quarterback sacks through his first 5 games of the season. So that's a look at the recruiting. We've hit the players of the week. We've hit the biggest games of the week. Now let's take a look at the biggest games to watch this coming Friday night. And going to do things a little bit differently in that we're going to look at each classification, the biggest game in each classification. So mixing it up a little bit here on the podcast this week. In 1A D2, going to go with number 2 Clinch County at Charlton County. This is a big game in Region 2 with 3 undefeated teams in the region right now, including Brooks County, which is 2-4. They played a very difficult schedule. Of course, Brooks got to the state championship game last year, and even though they've lost 4 of their first 6 games, I wouldn't preclude that from happening again this year. But this is a big game, Clinch and Charlton. It's the 64th all-time meeting with the Panthers leading 32-31-1. I think this might be the game that Nelly calls Swamp Wars. But I'd have to have Nelly on here to confirm that for me. I just know it's a big game. In 1A D1, 7th-ranked Thomasville at number 2 Worth County. Actually, we have 2 games here in this classification that I think you really got to keep your eyes on this week. So these are the front runners in Region 1. It's the 23rd all-time meeting. Worth was a 28-27 winner last year to snap a 7-game losing streak in the series. Also in 1A D1, number 3 Toombs County at number 6 Swainsboro. What a battle this is going to be. This is the Region 3 opener, could decide the region championship. Toombs, of course, 44-8 winners last year when they went on to win the state championship. But Swainsboro back in action here in 2025. They're undefeated right now. They lead the all-time series 11-6 after going to back-to-back state championship games the last couple of years prior to last year. In 2A, going to go with number 5 Pierce County at number 10 Cook. This is the Region 3 opener. Pierce, a 42-7 winner last year in the first meeting in nearly a decade. So now they're back in the same region. So they haven't played a lot against each other until recently. And Cook leads the all-time series 10-5. In 3A, number 5 LaGrange at Whitewater, Region 2. And both of these teams already have a region loss. So it's a must-win situation if you want to stay in the hunt to win the region championship. And this is just the 4th all-time meeting with the Grangers' big winners the last 2 years. In 4A, you got number 2 Cartersville at number 9 Cass. Traditionally, this is a lopsided blowout game, but it's our GPB Sports Stream Game of the Week because Cass is having a phenomenal season. They're already 3-0 in Region 7. The Purple Hurricanes are 2-0. Get this. This is the 52nd all-time meeting in this Bartow County rivalry, and the Canes lead it 46-5. Colonels have not won a game in the series since 2007, but it is a big game here in that region in 2025. We'll see if Cass can break ranks with history and pull off the upset against a very good Cartersville team that I have number 2 in my 4A top 10. In 5A, Lanier at number 3, Milton. This is Region 7. Lanier 1-1 in the region, and they got to win to have any hope of breaking through into the region's Big 3. This is a very tough region at the top with Milton, Gainesville, and Roswell. And if Lanier's going to have any shot at getting in that mix with those 3 teams and not be battling for a number 4 seed, they got to win this game. But Milton, a 49-7 winner last year in the first all-time meeting. But, of course, Milton last year was the number 1 public school football program in the entire country. So maybe a little bit more competitive. Lanier's going to have to play their A game and hope for a lot here. But that's what I'm watching in 5A. In 6A, got number 2 Buford at number 9, Collins Hill. And again, this is our GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia game of the week. It's Region 8. Eagles actually are tied with Mill Creek at the top of the region right now, 2-0. The Wolves are just 1-0. And, of course, Buford is being Buford. Buford is mashing opponents like they typically do. Saw them earlier in the month of September when they beat Douglas County in what was basically their one of their 2 most competitive games of the season, the other one being Milton. But the Eagles have won 4 straight since opening the year with a loss to defending state champion Grayson. Of course, they beat Grayson last year, and then Grayson got them back big time here in the season opener this year. And then they lost to Woodward Academy in the second week of the season, which was a bit of a surprise. So a rocky start, 0-2, but they bounced back from that to win 4 straight by a total score of 161-11. Buford leads the all-time series 3-0. And this is a little bit misleading, and I'll go into more detail. But Buford leads 3-0, 134-7 last year. That score is misleading because Collins Hill actually, I think, had the lead at halftime. It was very close at halftime, and then Buford pulled away in the second half. And again, this is just the 4th all-time meeting. The Eagles and the Wolves never played during the Collins Hill Travis Hunter days. So that would have been fun. I would have loved to see that, but at the time, Buford was not in the highest classification like Collins Hill was. And, of course, Collins Hill went on to win the state championship with Travis Hunter, playing for Collins Hill, won it in 2021 and got to the state finals his junior year, too. So this will be the 4th all-time meeting. That's GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia this coming Friday night. Looking forward to that. First ever visit to Faring Field. So should be a lot of fun. Invite you to join us on GPB Friday night, along with my partner, Wayne Gandy, and John Nelson, and our entire Emmy award-winning GPB team. So look forward to that ball game this Friday night. All right, that's going to wrap up the podcast. Thanks for joining us. Remember, like, follow, subscribe, share with your high school football friends, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, listening on iHeart, or listening on Apple Podcast. I invite you to share it with your friends, and I thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Matt Stewart Sports High School Football Podcast.